everybody, Mike Guglielmi, Sons of a Pitch Soccer Podcast. How y'all doing today? We have a special guest with us here for the Toronto FC 2021 MLS season preview, Mr. Ryan Anderson. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing amazing, Mike. How are you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. Anytime I get to talk about TFC, I'm a happy guy. So
same here.
There you go. Let everybody know where they can find you, man.
On YouTube, you can find my channel. Just search up Ryan Anderson. If it doesn't pop up, search up Ryan Anderson Toronto. It's going to be there, of course. Just my name. Twitter, Ryan Anderson _27. Instagram, just change the underscore for a period because Twitter's weird. It's got to stay a little bit iconic, but
well, let's get started here. Last season, Toronto FC, 44 points, second in the Eastern Conference, had a chance at the Supporters' Shield on the last day of the season. Needed Philly to lose. They had to win. It all went downhill from there. But overall, a +7 goal differential, a decent season for Toronto as far as the regular season goes. Playoffs, different story. First round eliminated by expansion Nashville SC in Connecticut. Ryan, talk to me a little bit about last season.
Last season started off a little bit slowly. They had a couple of rough patches. They had the win streak. Then late on, injuries happened, had a little bit of a cold stretch. They carried that in onto the playoffs. Pozuelo said he had an injury late on, and that just basically spelled the end for them. They were tired. Hartford wasn't a great place for them, and they just lost their focus, and that's probably why the season ended so early. I don't think it was the roster. I think it was the then coach, but hey, we'll see what happens this year. I think it'll be better. I think it'll be a lot more of what we saw during the good times and the bad, but we will see.
All right. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this upcoming 2021 season, which just announced that TFC will be based out of an Orlando hotel and playing games in Orlando and Tampa as their home games. Some of the players in and out, this is a very short list for TFC, a very, very slow offseason, which, according to Ali Curtis, was going to be this epic offseason. Did not turn out to be that. It's still early. As time of recording, it is only March the 9th. So, there's still plenty of time for things to get done before the season starts. But players in, one, Jordan Peruzza, the homegrown player, signed from TFC2 up to the first team contract last year. And then you've got players out. Laurent Simon decides to retire and ends up going to Montreal as an assistant coach. And Tony Gallagher gets sent back to Liverpool. His loan expired. And then just recently, I believe it was 2 or 3 days ago, Pablo Piatti made it official. He's not coming back. He signed with Elche of La Liga, excuse me. So not a whole lot of movement here, players in and out. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? What are your thoughts?
I think that's a good thing because we had a good roster, a second place overall roster. I don't think there were many changes that needed to be made, and the changes that we can address, I think we've addressed with more striker depth, and we can also address with some of the rumors that have been coming out. If we get Boré, that would be a good thing to get. We could get another defender, but I think we have some people from the draft and in lower on the team that could be called up to be good defenders if need be. I don't know if we need to sign anybody. I don't think we do. I think we're fine with the roster we have. Let Chris Armas have his vision with this roster. And I think with a second place roster under his vision, I don't think the slow off season was a bad thing. I think it could be a good thing in the end, and you will see that, I think, as time goes on.
All right. Yeah, I think they need to find another designated player, either before the season starts or something that we know will come in the summer. For example, Bora or Boré. If he comes in the summer, he's on a free. If he comes now, there's a transfer fee involved with that. And some will say, well, it's just MLSE's money, doesn't really matter. Well, that stuff gets factored in. So for me, if we can get a pre-contract agreement with him to come on a free in the summer, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think this group can hold it down for half a season under Armas's leadership, and we have a good core. So with that being said, looking at the designated players, 2 out of the 3 spots currently used by TFC. Number 1, Alejandro Pozuelo, your reigning MVP of MLS. Alejandro Pazuelo, we talked about it last season coming into this year, what we would like to see of him with a full season or a full off season, so to say, because he had come over from Belgium and hadn't had any break. I mean, the guy had played for like almost 12 months straight. So now we get the break and he's MVP of the league. We get another break here. I expect to see probably the same type of output, if not even better, for Pozuelo this season if the second designated player, Jozy Altidore, can stay healthy. If he's on the field for 3/4 of the games this season with Pozuelo, it could spell another MVP season for Pozuelo. And Jozy Altidore, that's for me, the most important thing is the health. If he can stay on the field, and his head's in the game too. Last season, his head was not in the game, even when he was able to play. He needs, to me, I'm done with him. I'd rather see him gone, to be honest with you. I would rather him move to another club. I am very happy and glad that he gave us the moments that he did. And I thank him for that. And he will always be a legendary Toronto FC player. But for me, I think it's time to move on and get another piece that can come in and consistently produce over a span of multiple seasons, younger, not as injury prone, and whatnot. So those are my thoughts on the 2 designated players. What do you think, Ryan, on those 2?
I'll start with the Jozy point because that's a good point to jump off of. That would be the right assessment if we were back in December. Right now, I've heard only good things from training camp. He scored in a scrimmage. Schaffelberg assisted him. He's lost a lot of weight. His head's back in the game. It sounds like he wants to do amazing this year, and it looks like he probably will. I've heard a lot of good things from him under Armas, and that's a good thing. And Pozuelo, I think he'll have another MVP caliber season. He may go back to back. He's one of the best players I have ever seen play the game, not just a Toronto player, but anywhere. This man is one of the best I've ever seen. And it's sad that he's here. Kind of, not really for me, but to other people, it's sad because he's hitting his prime. He would be good anywhere, but we have him, and that's just an amazing thing to see. But part of me wants to see him in Europe because I want him to prove what I know. But him to be here is amazing, and he'll have another season with even more goals and assists because it'll be a full season. And with Champions League, hopefully, and other competitions, hopefully it's just even more legendary than what he did the past 2 years, because I think it would be.
Nice. Yeah. Well, good to hear that, that you're hearing Jozy's kind of turned it around there so far in the beginning of training camp. Definitely need that out of him for sure. So that's good to hear as well. I completely agree. Pozuelo, the man is unbelievable. And I think he could do special things over in Europe in one of the top leagues. Premier League, I don't think he's quite the type of player that would start every week for one of the top tier Premier League teams, but possibly mid-table. I think he could do that. So as far as the open, we've heard a lot about this Bora coming over from River Plate. Outside of that, not a whole lot of rumors outside of him. We've heard some things about the designated player rules that are getting switched up, where if one of your designated players is under 22, then it opens up 3 more spots for young designated players rather than just 1 more spot. Where do you think Toronto goes with this open DP spot? Do you think they sign somebody this season? Do you think they let it ride out with 2? What do you think?
I do think Bore will become a Red at some point this season. They have a good core already, and if they get a player like Bore, they would be instant favorites to win the league, do damage in the Champions League, even if they get him halfway. I like their possible path there. If we get Bore, that changes the whole game even more than we already were there. I think he's the perfect signing to top off this team. We already have a good team, but he would be the cherry on top of the sundae. He's an amazing player, would be an amazing striker to go with Altidore, especially with a 4-4-2 that could turn into a 4-3-3 that Armas wants to play. I like Io, but it would be nice to have somebody to shield him and be like, hey, we could have you a little bit longer when Josie does choose to leave. I don't think this team needs to open up the 3 younger spots because we have good youth that's already in our ranks. We don't have to really buy anybody to have that good youth and to trust the
Right.
youth. So Bore, if he comes in July or June, or if he comes in March and we get this deal done quicker than what we expect, I think that's the perfect way to take that spot and get it done this season.
All right, so MLS Cup odds for this team as of right now, plus 850. Toronto FC to win MLS Cup, one of the favorites to win MLS Cup. Breakout youngsters, you just alluded to it, the youth for Toronto FC. There is tons of youth for TFC. We got some good feedback from over our friends over on Reddit. Always put a post up to kind of see what they're thinking as far as the breakout youngsters. This is the one team that I actually do know the actual academy and the youngsters on because it's my team. But
Same here.
You look at some of these guys, Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy, the writing's on the wall for him. There's already rumors of him being scouted by all of the major clubs. They're not just talking, Manchester City is interested in him. No, it's Manchester City, Manchester United, Barcelona, Juventus. All of the big clubs are interested in him. Supposedly has that special talent that comes around, generational type talent. As well, we've got Jaden Nelson. Jaden Nelson, from the games that I've seen of him playing for the academy, the few games that have been televised on MLSsoccer.com and whatnot, the kid is an absolute beast. He will, if he was to stay in MLS, I think within 3 to 4 years, could be playing at an MVP type level. That's how good this kid is. As well, Ralph Prieso came in last season in the beginning, the end of the season, and played extremely well. Very, very poised. That was the one thing that stood out to me is you've got this young kid comes into MLS first team action and is as poised as he was. It was like he would have 3 defenders around him and he was just like, yeah, whatever. Nobody around me. I got this. There's a pass. Like it was unreal how poised this kid was. And I think he will break out this season as well. Those are my 3 for the breakout youngsters I think are going to really break out, especially if they get that playing time from Chris Armas. Do you agree with those players? Tell me what you think of those players. If there's anybody else on the list you think could break out as well, let me know about that.
I would say those 3 are the big breakout youngsters. I would also say Jordan Peruzza would also be a breakout depth piece, but let me talk about the 3 that we talked about. Ralph Prieso, I think, is the best out of all 3 of them. The way he plays is like a young Michael Bradley. I love watching him play in the center of midfield, and if they want to push Bradley up like they've been saying, it would be perfect to put Prieso and Delgado in that pivot because I would love to see him command the midfield. He's got the pace to do it. He's got the smarts. He's amazing. He's got a bright, bright future ahead of him. I mean, he made Gonzalo Higuain look horrible that time they played Inter Miami. The best game of that late season run, or the skid, but in the late season. Ralph Prieso is amazing. I have lots of belief in him. He's probably the best out of all the youngsters, even though Jaden is amazing. The games that he's played, he's looked good. He looked the best in some of the games that he played, especially that New York City game in Orlando. He looked amazing there. I like Jaden. He has potential. I think he would have amazing stats if he gets to play in the midfield on the left or the right. He would look good there. I would also say Jaquil, as you said, he's getting scouted by a lot of the major clubs in Europe. And if they're watching him, I'm sure they're watching the other 2 because they're just as good. Jaquil is special. He's got something that's just hard to explain. He's a very good young player, the youngest in MLS. He's got something special. He looked good against Philadelphia, was probably one of our best players in that 5-0 drubbing. I like Jaquil. I think he's special. He looked good at the academy level, and he'll probably look good at the MLS level if he gets time to stay, but I don't know if he'll stay longer than a year or a year and a half because he's pretty good and he's got a lot of potential for him.
Yeah, for me, I always harp on it. I hope that these younger players do stay in MLS to establish themselves with the first team in MLS. I hate seeing these guys I kind of look at 2 of the other Canadian teams, Vancouver and Montreal. And you've got Vancouver with Alfonzo Davies. He broke into the first team. He played for the first team for almost a full season over the span of 2 years. became a star in the league, then moved over to a bigger club. You've got the opposite happening in Montreal with Balou Tabla. Tons of talent, goes over to Barcelona B after never playing a minute for the Montreal Impact first team, and then he's back with Montreal after a season because he couldn't handle it. I like the Alfonzo Davies route of get established inside MLS first, get into that first team, become even just a major piece of a team. You don't even have to be a superstar, and then move over. So I'd love to see that with Nelson and Jaquil and as well Ralph Prieso this season.
As you said there, I think that's becoming the more preferred route for MLS. If you're looking at players like Brian Reynolds, that looks like the more preferred route nowadays. You give them time in your team, give them time to set up, get scouted, give them a year or two, maybe 3. If they become a star, they become a star. If they could help the team in any way, they do. I like that route better because it shows you the talent that they have and shows you that they can hack it somewhere else, because MLS is a way better league than people give it credit for, especially nowadays. Back when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, yeah, the league did suck. I agree. But nowadays, this league is way better. Watching it grow has been an amazing moment, and letting these players grow and then selling them off for 15, 20 million, especially like the Davies fee, is a better thing to see than them just letting them go wild like Balou Tabla, and then they have to come back because they can't handle it. So
you got it. You got it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Chris Armas, the new head coach for TFC. I'm torn. I like the signing. I like him being the coach. I don't like the fact that he was brought in by Ali Curtis, and you have that kind of relationship there. Like, I feel like that hire was planned out, and he's my boy, so I'm going to hire him. I don't like that part of it, but I do like the fact that Armas has a lot of U.S. national team experience as well as MLS experience, which will bode well in MLS. I think he got a raw end of the deal in New York. I don't think he should have been canned in New York, honestly, for what he was doing. Yeah, they went through a little bit of a rough spell, but he didn't have the time to work it there. So I'm interested to see what he can do with TFC with that experience. I think that's his biggest selling point. There's talk about the press. Will he play the press? Will he not play the press? Will he press more than Vanny did? I'm sure he will, because Vanny didn't press at all. But there's a lot of positives to see with Chris Armas. I think he'll do well. I just hope that if things go south quickly this season, that they don't just move on. Let's give the guy some time, give him a chance to build his own roster, because as you said, there's been no signings since he's come on. So he's working completely with a team that he did not build. He's strictly working with guys that he did not bring into the team. So give him time, a minimum of probably 2 years, I would say, and see how it goes from there. But I think Chris Armas could be a great coach for Toronto. I know we disagree on Greg Vanny. I liked Vanny. You thought he was trash. Are you excited about Chris Armas?
I'm very excited about Chris Armas. He's playing football with his team the way I think the team should play, the way I think football should be played. I know as a talking head, you really shouldn't have that, but I think attacking football is the way to go nowadays. I think if he plays the press like he says he's going to play the press, the 4-4-2, the movement, the ball, moving the ball forward, don't move it backwards. You got to move it forward. If you have to build up, that's fine, but don't pass back all 500 times a match like they did under Vanny. Like, if I got a step pedometer, like one of those push pedometers, you would probably see like 350 by the end of every match. That's not the way it's going to be under Armas. They'll move the ball forward. They'll move the ball fast. They'll have to move fast to defend. Hopefully a younger center back pops up over Omar Gonzalez, because I don't know if he can handle the press, but Mavinga will back him up as much as he can, that's for sure. But I like the way that they're talking. I like the way Armas is talking. He's got a lot of great ideas. I love what he's saying. I think this is a lot better situation for him than Red Bulls, because Toronto is just a better team overall. Even when he gets to put in his own players, this team's just a better team overall. They have more money. Even though he may have been Ali Curtis's signing, he still gives me the idea of what I want to see. He may not have been the person I wanted, the exact person I wanted, but he believes that same sort of philosophy, because I did want Maurizio Sarri. That was no secret. I thought we could have done it. We didn't do it. If Armas does have a slow start, I will admit I'll try to give him time, but I'm one of those reactionaries, like a Steve Dangle type of guy. I'll try to give him time. I hope I do, but you don't know what I'm going to say because I don't even know what I'm going to say whenever I start recording these videos, and that's the truth. These come from the heart, and you know that.
Oh, yeah.
Just like that rant about the Forge situation that turned out that maybe didn't seem so timely after yesterday's news, but we could talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk
now
about
to get
that
the fairness of it.
Right? Totally. All right, projected starting 11 for TFC this season. I've still got them in the 4-4-2. Yes, Armas does want to move it into a 4-4-3-3, but as of right now, I think I'm going with the 4-4-2. And from left to right, obviously, we got in goal Westberg, Moro, Mavinga, Gonzalez, and Lorrea starting on defense. Bradley, Delgado, Osorio, and Pozuelo with Altidore and Akinola up top. There is a little bit of movement that I could see here, depending on, obviously, if we get the new DP signing up front, you would switch that Akinola out with Bora. The midfield seems pretty set. I think you're going to have Prieso's going to get some time in there as well, possibly. If it does shift into that 4-3-3, you're going to see some more wing play coming out of Ruddy and Nelson. The defense to me is pretty much set. I mean, that's that. There, other than maybe Oro and Lorrea switching spots there on right back, but I think Lorrea has kind of pushed himself up the depth chart to be that number one guy. Although I personally prefer him to be that sub role where he comes on in the 70th minute of a game and his speed just blows past those other guys, and he's a huge, like basically a super sub in defense / wing back rather than, you know, a super sub like a Tosaint Ricketts super sub striker, right? So that I would personally like to see Aro starting and Lorrea coming in off the bench. But other than that, that's my starting 11 as of right now. What do you think, Ryan?
For me, I'd love to see Lorrea and Aro start on both sides because I like Justin Morrow. I think he's a good player, but he lost a step the past couple of seasons. Richie Lorrea has grown into an amazing player, fast, can start, can move up, can keep the pace for 90 minutes. I like Justin Morrow, but Richie Lorrea is what Justin Morrow was back in 2017. You could exactly have that same type of play there. If Aro could start getting in crosses and a scoring touch, because I know he's had a close couple of calls the past couple of years, that would be amazing. I like Justin Morrow, but I think he's better served on the bench for a more defensive performance now than if we need somebody moving up and down, because this isn't 2017 anymore.
Right.
You could also move Bradley up to move forward and connect the play, because at center defensive midfielder, he needs pace, and he's losing that pace heavily. I'd love to see Bradley moved up like they're talking about to put the ball forward. He still has an amazing pass. I will give that for Michael Bradley. He still has better leadership. He has an amazing pass forward, can connect the play. He still has great vision. I'd love to see Prieso and Delgado as the pivot in central defense midfield. I'd love to see Osorio be an attacking role. If we need to play Ruddy and Nelson, I'd love to see that as well. As you said, if Bore comes in, that would replace Io, and Io would be some sort of super sub. And Josie would probably need load management sometimes, I think, even though he came in ready, lower weight, all that. I still think Io is going to get a good couple of starts if we bring Bore in or not. I think the 4-4-2 will be the base formation, but they will try to also play as a 4-3-3, but it would be put down as a 4-4-2. So I like that you use the 4-4-2 because they're going to run through those two formations at the same time in a game. I think defensively it would be shaped more like a 4-4-2, and offensively it would be more of a 4-3-3, but that's with the press. So I like the lineup there.
Perfect. All right, so most important player. For me, this one's a no-brainer. It's Alejandro Pozuelo. You've got the reigning MVP of the league. He has to be your most important player again. A close second comes to Josie Altidore. if Josie has another season where he plays a total of 5 games and scores 2 goals, that's not going to bode well for Toronto this season, and that's going to hurt him a lot. But it's got to be Alejandro Pozuelo. If he doesn't have an MVP caliber season, I think that we'll talk about it a little bit in predictions coming up at the end of the show. But you've got a team that's probably going to finish the bottom half of the Eastern Conference if Pozuelo does not have the same type of season he had last year. What are your thoughts?
I would totally agree with that 100%. Alejandro Pozuelo is our most important player. If he does not produce like we think he will, yeah, our season's not going to be a very good-looking, beautiful season for sure.
Right.
I would say Josie's our second most important unless Borre comes in, because the way Borre plays would be perfect for the press, for the offensive style. But if he doesn't come in, yes, Josie would be our second most important player. And I also would have to give a dark horse mention to Io, because I think he would like to show that he still has the same form and same play style that he had last year, and that he could still score goals at a regular pace, even with Josie on the pitch. I'd like to see their inner working together, especially if we don't get Borre until the summer. I think that would be amazing, watching Pozuelo, Io, and Josie work together, because I think that would be an amazing thing to see with Josie, the way he's already vouched for Io, even though it was a couple of years ago. Him saying Io's basically 2.0 of him, that would be an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so first game is March 20th, as of right now, is March 20th, the Canadian Championship against Forge FC. And now that's all up in the air. It's been up in the air since it hasn't even really been officially announced. It's just been through rumors that it's going to be March 20th. To try and give these guys a little bit of time between that and then the Champions League starting on April 6th or 7th. So the first game against Forge, Canadian Championship, it should be, if it happens on the 20th, if it happens anytime before the season actually starts, which I would think it would have to be unless somebody forfeits, which there's been talk of that too.
Right.
You've got Toronto FC should win this game easily. Hands down.
Right.
No problem. You've got Forge. The reason why they can't train is because, as you've said in your video, and everybody go check out that video, that rant by Ryan on his channel just the other day. It was fantastic. I couldn't stop watching it. You've got this team, and they're a bunch of half-time players, really, part-time players. They've got to have jobs outside of that because they don't get paid enough money to survive. So they're not given that professional team
exemption.
Benefit, the exemption, like Toronto FC does. So they're upset that they're not able to train for this. Now, Toronto FC comes down with a bunch of COVID. I mean,
as I referenced earlier,
mess. Absolute mess. I mean, you talked about it and fill us in a little bit, short on that from your rant. But overall, first game to me, it should be a no-brainer walk through. TFC should kill them and move on to the Champions League up against Lyon.
Yeah, even if some of the players are still sort of affected from long COVID, I still think they would walk over Forge. But yes, Bob Young, the owner of Forge FC, a couple of days ago on his Twitter, put out an open letter to Canada Soccer saying that Forge deserved more time to practice and train before this final, because 7 to 10 days before the final, if they were training, they were scared of injury and scared of the fact that, well, not scared, but they thought that Toronto would have way more leeway and way more preparedness for this match because they would have before this COVID happened. Now it's kind of more fair, I would say. Right. Like Ford could start training, but Toronto still has to wait a little bit to clear all these cases, or at least the people that were false positives. We don't know who has it. We don't know who tested positive or who didn't. They're protecting their identities because that is the way of health. In most cases, unless they say they had it, we don't know who has it. But Forge is not happy with the way the Canadian government is handling their training camp, their practice, not letting them practice. And I have to say, the way people are complaining and backing up Forge is a total joke. It's not like Toronto needs any help to beat them. They don't. They don't at all. It's mind-blowing. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, Canadian soccer is so nationalistic.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me about the one game is it is just 90 minutes. And we all know
Right.
soccer and how that goes. It's a game where anybody can beat anybody on any given day in a
Right.
90-minute stretch. If it was a two-leg final, I'd even feel more comfortable for TFC. But the fact that it's just 90 minutes, who knows? Look at the 2016 MLS Cup final, which I attended.
Yep.
TFC completely dominated that game like Seattle was forged. And then they end up going to penalties and they lose. So again, it can be a trap game. So
And especially if that Canadian Championship's 90 minutes, then straight to penalties, then
right.
I
Exactly.
hope Chris Armas has them practicing penalties.
Oh God, please.
I don't want this again
because we need help with penalties. We always have.
Like,
we always have.
The funniest thing is we've won a penalty shootout in our horrible era, but we've never won a penalty shootout in our amazing era. It's crazy. Like, it's actually crazy. It's like, how does this make any sense?
Right. It's scary. Anytime penalties come up, I just turn it off. I can't watch penalties. It's bad.
I'd rather watch other teams.
What's that?
I'd rather watch other teams in penalty shootouts than mine.
Totally. 100%. So, all right, time for the predictions. As far as predictions go, I kind of go with a ceiling and a floor, right? Ceiling is best case scenario, all goes well. And then floor is, the bottom falls out.
Right.
Everything is horrible, bunch of injuries, whatever. So for me, the ceiling is third place in the Eastern Conference. I don't quite think they're at the level of the top of the East right now. If they bring in another DP, if Josie stays healthy, I'm basing that off of Josie last season. If he stays healthy and like you're saying, comes into camp with his head in the game and, in shape and whatnot, then it could be higher than this. But right now I'm going with third as a ceiling. And for a floor, I'm going with seventh. I still think this is a playoff team. To me, there's no way TFC misses the playoffs this season. So I've got seventh as my floor. What do you think?
This will be more than the MLS season because I like to give my predictions out there as the season starts. So with the MLS regular season, I do think they'll get Bore at least halfway. I do think Josie has his head in the game, so I do think they'll finish first in the East. I don't think Philly is as strong of a team as they were last year. They haven't made really any replacements. I'm not that scared of Columbus. Toronto, I think, has the core to beat Columbus. I think Toronto's a better team. I like Columbus. They're a strong team, but I still think we're better, especially if we get Bore and with Josie having his head on straight. I think we're good. I think we'll be first. And worst case scenario, I would say about sixth. But we would be a playoff team.
Okay.
No matter what.
Cool.
I do think we'll be in contention for the Supporter Shield. If we make the Champions League, I think we're going deep. I really do. Leon does not look good right now. I've been watching their games since the week after Elimination Chamber because I had to watch the pay-per-view. I'm a wrestling fan. But I've been watching all their games. I've been scouting them. Leon does not look good right now. I don't think Cruz Azul is really that strong. They don't scare me that much. I think we could handle them. We could handle Columbus or Monterrey, who would be in the semifinals, and I guess the finals probably be Club America. I think, honestly, if we get in, I think we could be in the finals.
Okay. Wow. All right. And you know what? We're going to have to bring you back. I plan on doing a CONCACAF Champions League preview for the entire CONCACAF Champions League. So I'm sure we're going to have to bring you back for that one as well. You did the 2020 edition there and the second edition of 2020.
That did pretty good too, didn't it?
Back from 2021. So, all right. So there you go. There's our predictions. That's hopefully it will be a good season for Toronto FC. I think it will be. Thanks again for jumping on, Ryan. Really appreciate it. And one last time, tell everybody where they can find it.
My YouTube channel is my name, Ryan Anderson. Look up my name. Can't find it there. Just put Toronto on it. It's going to pop up. There it is. My Twitter is Ryan Anderson _27. My Instagram's the same, but with the period instead of the underscore. That's where you could find me. I'm very active, so I interact a lot. So that would be an amazing follow if you want to follow me there. There you go. And can't wait to see how this season turns out. It's going to be a good one.
Yes, it will. Well, thanks for coming on, Ryan. Appreciate it, man. And TFC, best of luck this season. I'm really excited, and I think that it will be a great season for TFC. With that, everybody have a great one, and we'll see you on the next team preview.